everyone, and welcome to this week's podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. We have Stuart Rogers on the line this week. A little bit different because we haven't had someone doing sheep for a long time, but Stuart does biodynamic farming as well, so we'll be talking about that. But Stuart, first of all, just tell people where you're based and what you're up to on your farm.
Okay, I'm just based outside Kilcock in County Meath. I'm farming about 52 hectares thereabouts between cereal and grassland. I'm in second year conversion. I went into organics last April 21. Before that, I was mainly producing forage, hay and haylage for horses. I've been on this road organically, biodynamically, biological farming systems for since 2016, and a little bit before that. In the last couple of years, I've seen the need to diversify, and this year I've fully gone away from the forage and concentrating mostly on the cereal end of things, and in building my flock up. Over the last winter, I've had stores sheep or store lambs on the farm, and now I'm lambed a few ewes there this year, so I have lambs first time on the farm of our own.
And I guess you mentioned that kind of 2016 that you were kind of on this road of biological and biodynamic organic farming. I mean, why? Was there a light bulb moment? Like what was it?
I have been farming on my own since 2007, and I was introduced to compost, a commercial kind of compost from a local farm beside us here, and I used it and could see that I could grow grass this way without chemical fertilizer. And there was an article in 2013 in the Farming Weekly about compost teas, so I decided that I needed to get more information. I wasn't kind of happy about the amount of compost I had to spread and the time, so this would be great to try compost teas and eliminate the compost. Knew very little about compost.
I can hear people listening thinking, oh, he didn't know what he was getting into.
No. But I quickly learned. And in that learning thing, and I had to go to the UK. I hadn't met many people here at the time, and that was kind of around 15, 16. I went to the UK to the Soil Association, and they were running a composting trials, and we went over and had a look. I came back, and for some reason, things happened, doors opened. I heard of a soils course going on by David Wallace. Some people know David Wallace, and that introduced to something that was just never heard of before, and the in-depthness of the knowledge that David had and how he wanted farmers to engage in this and start to learn and start to read. So that followed on to a course that was run in 2017 by a man called Hugh Lovell. Since then he's passed away. But Hugh was about quantum agriculture. It was a 6-day course, very, very advanced, very out there, completely blew my mind. But I went away kind of totally confused, but I still wanted to learn more. And that would have brought in the biodynamics and a lot more. So that's where it started. And I started to introduce the system into the farm with putting on some of the preps, the biodynamic preps onto the farm, and looking at it. Yeah.
Well, what kind of response? Because I guess for the average person listening, even the average organic farmer listening that doesn't spread it, maybe they spread lime, maybe they do other things. But I mean, when you talk about the response to your land, to the substances, the use substances you were putting on it, could you see it straight away? Could you feel it? What was the difference?
Well, biodynamics is, without getting very in depth into it, it's a
we can if you want. It's that kind of podcast. You can say whatever you want. It's fine.
It's a very holistic way of farming, and it takes everything from the universe right through down into the soil, the depth of the soil, and it's everything, and everything has an influence. Doesn't matter. It has an influence. It can be very complex, or it can be very simple. It depends how deep you want to go into it. But for me, my feet are on the ground. I want it simple. So there's a number of processes and a number of systems in that, and you can apply certain, which are called is preps.
So give us a basic one, because I mean people might be familiar with soil tests and that kind of thing, but they might not be familiar. So yeah, give us a basic one.
Okay, there's two main. There's 500. It's called 500 and 501, and they are applied throughout the year. 501 is applied more than 502 because the 500. The 500 is for the soil, and for the soil, and 501 is then kind of for the plant. It kind of brings a balance. You need one, you need the other. It's all about balance. And what I was doing was applying these preps together in the wintertime. This is something that Hugh Lovell talked about. And it kickstarts, it activates the soil and says, right, we're away now, let's go. And it creates the microbes to kick on. It brings a little bit of temperature up in the soil. Now I'm talking very minute. I saw it firsthand. So it's to see it firsthand is that after that was applied, the next day it kind of was a slight sprinkle of snow on the farm. And there was two fields where one was applied and one wasn't. The sprinkle of snow stayed on the field, on the one that it wasn't applied, and it had disappeared on the one that was applied. So that illustrated to me that there was activity in the ground and there was temperature rise. And when
is it a form of kind of compost tea again that you're creating? No. Okay. Well, what is it?
It's a system whereby you use a lactating cow's horn.
Okay.
You put a substance, or you put a dung from a cow into the horn, and you bury it in around September, October time, and you leave it there to the following April, May, and you take it out of the ground, and it will transform into a more composting substance. But it's not the compost; it's the informational patterns, and we're going a little bit out into, say, kind of, I won't say.
Well, I'm thinking that horn and hoof is keratin. It's protein.
Yeah, but see, it's
it's like what we have in our nails and hair. So it's the kind of the breakdown of that.
So the horn is just the carrier.
Okay.
It holds the dung together, it is absorbed in through the forces of the universe and everything around it, and over the winter months it transforms and absorbs in all the energy that's around, and then that becomes a kind of a composting colloidal substance that is stored, and in small minute amounts has to be stirred in water for an hour.
Okay.
So what you're doing is you're basically taking the informational pattern that's on the compost substance and transferring that into water, and then you're applying that out in the field. These are the low dosages. It's not.
And you have a big boom sprayer, I'm guessing. No,
no,
okay. How do you get it out then?
There's you have to apply it in two different ways. One is a mist, which is the 501, and the 500 is done in a droplet, sprayed as a droplet. So the 500 is applied in the evening time. The 501 is applied in the morning. They have to like if you apply a 500, you then have to apply a 501. Now you can continue on applying 501, but you have to apply 500 at the start. The 501 then in the summer months, over the summer months from May to October, it's quartz silica substance. It's a very fine powder that's ground down into a fine powder that is placed within the horn and buried over the summer months, and then it is extracted from the ground, and you have 501, and that is the same process. It absorbs in all the energy around from the universe all around, and that influence, and that's the same thing again. Is it has to be put into water and a vortex stored for an hour, and creating vortexes and chaos. When you create a vortex, then there's you can do this by hand or there's instruments. You create a vortex, you then cause chaos, and you stop that vortex, and you rotate your hand, or the instrument rotates the opposite way and cause another vortex. So this process goes on for an hour. And what happens is the informational patterns that are on either the 500 or 501 is transferred into the water, and then you apply that onto your soil, onto your land. Now,
it's mad. I love it. I love it, but it's mad. I also think there's a
it's
practical problem.
it's not about
getting a horn of a cow is a hard thing now when we dehorn everything quite young, but
well, I'm considered mad around here.
So what? Would you ever consider? I'm pretty sure the Organic Association certify biodynamic farmers as well. Do you consider getting the biodynamic certification?
Yeah, I am. That's the next step. I will go to the first 2 years of conversion, and then I'm going straight into Demeter certification.
Brilliant.
It's
yeah.
Biodynamics for me is everything, because it brings everything onto the farm. You're trying to create a closed loop system, and you're using what you have on the farm. Now that's not fully possible because I don't have cows. I have sheep, but I'm trying to build as close as I can a closed loop system on the farm. Now there's other preparations, and they're compost preps, which I apply onto the compost that I make here. And those patterns are in the compost, and when we apply it onto the fields, those patterns are there as well.
It's fascinating, but we better talk about one of my least favorite subjects, sheep. Traditionally, we've been suckler farmers here down in Limerick. We had sheep once, and my abiding memory is chasing them out of the neighbours' fields. So I'm not very fond of them. But go on, tell me about these sheep. What breed are they?
Well, I've had stores the last couple of years, mainly mountain sheep, black-faced mountain sheep. Very hard to keep within their boundaries. They like to, but we're well fenced on the boundaries. But internally, it can be fun. I have now want to build, and I'm building a flock of bed layers, so lowland, and they seem to work very well in the organic system. The issue, the downside to all this is that availability of animals in organics, I came across as being an issue at the start, because it's a small amount of farmers. I know it's increasing now, and there's a lot more there, but when I started last 21, it was very hard to build. So I'm slowly building that up. There is a market there. We're told through Board Bia and Department that there's a big market in Europe for our lamb, which we hope that is the situation with all these other new entrants, that will be there. For me, because of the biodynamics, it opened me up into, well, it's homeopathy. So I've started to use homeopathy with the sheep as for different issues that arise. It just gives me, it takes that, well, like, what do I do instead of using medicine and other things that you have to use in a conventional system. So the homeopathy will help greatly in this, and that's limited information on that as well, because
are there any examples of that? Like, what would be wrong with a sheep that you could treat with some sort of homeopathy remedy?
There's, well, in lambing, you could have issues. You could have, we'll say, foot rot can be treated with it, or there's any of them kind of main diseases that's in the animal. But it all is like, the way I farm is about the soil. So if the soil is right, and we have a long way to go about soil, but if the soil is right, the plant is right, the animal is right. But the problem is our soils are not right, so it's a knock-on effect. I've been involved with a EIP project, Danu Farming Group, for the last 5 years. That's coming to an end this year, and that has opened. It was a transition from conventional farming into biological farming, probably a bit more. So there was trials done. We had 4 plots. One was, we'd say, conventional Chagas Green Book. Second was with a carbon source, Chaga's Green Book. And the third one was with minerals. And the fourth one was with minerals and everything else. So that opened it up. And it showed it was all about the soil and how we build basically humus within our soil. And when we build humus, then we have the farm is humming, and then the plants, and then the animal. But we're a long way off that. I thought at the start of it we were going to be 5 years' time. This is going to be brilliant to turn inside out the farm, but we're not. We're not there, and it'll probably take a lifetime.
Yeah, I always think that we talk about 5-year plans, but I think we need to think about a 100-year legacy on farms, really. But for people out there who might be listening, because we're coming to the end of the podcast now, who just maybe want to dip their toe into maybe biological farming or biodynamic farming, what would you recommend? It's July, August now, so what could they do just to dip their toe in?
What could they do? Well, the first thing they could do is educate themselves. Books, there's plenty of books out there. Get onto knots and see about courses that are running. Talk to farmers, go to farm walks, get to know when these are on. There's a lot of information there. There's a lot of information among farmers. The certain things that I do on the farm, and I don't see organics as being a kind of, it doesn't frighten me. Anything that arises, I think I can handle it through the biodynamics, through homeopathy, and through the knowledge that I've gained over the last number of years. I use compost, I use ferment, seaweed, nettles, fish, all these different things. They're my, say, fertilizers. They are building soil structure. They're building healthy soils. Big thing is plant diversity. Lots of plants. The big key to this is photosynthesis, getting the exudates through the plant out into the soil and build humus. That's the bottom line. So there's lots of things that we need to do, and we need to educate each other as farmers.
I think we need to support each other. I think we can be very derisive and sneery nearly if people try something new. And that's just because we're afraid of change. Yeah. And that's inbuilt in us, I think, as Irish farmers. But dipping your toe in won't hurt. You don't have to jump fully in, just dip your toe.
You don't have to jump fully in. And I didn't, and I'm a long time at like 6, 7 years, 8 years of this, and like lots of things I haven't done yet. But I know where I'm going, and nothing frightens me. You have an issue, you have to do a little bit of research, you have to figure it out, and then see, can you do it? And you can have positive results. The one thing about the Danu farming group was all the farmers, there's 12 farmers, all those farmers, what they were applying on plots 3 and 4 are now applying on all the farm. So they've taken what they've learned onto the farm, and there's no reason why any other farmer can't do this. Irrelevant whether they're conventional or organic, but there is systems out there. You have to open your mind. That's the biggest thing about all this, and try something. If it's small, try it in a small area, and then see how that goes, and then out to the bigger end of it. But sitting there and just hoping that somebody's going to do it for you, it's not going to be. And that's one thing I've not learned. I have to do it myself, and
I think that's a good sentiment to end on. Stuart, it's been fascinating, and I think if you have a farm walk at any stage, I think you're going to be inundated with people. But thank you very much for joining us, and for people listening as well, just a reminder that the Irish Organic Association does certify in biodynamics as well if you're interested. But you've been listening to me, Hannah Quinn Mulligan, and this podcast was brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. And for more information about organics, you can check out their website, www.irishorganicassociation.ie. But until next week, thank you very much for tuning in, and take care.